Imagine trying to find one specific memory in thousands of hours of unlabeled audio. That is the challenge facing WO2Net as they bring together diverse oral history collections from partner organizations across the network. Our goal was to take the existing segmentation pipeline for these interviews and optimize it for greater precision. The current pipeline uses AI to split these long interviews into chapters, but the model was struggling with raw, unedited audio. To understand the problem, listen to this segment. The technical chatter? The baseline AI was treating that as the start of a historical story. It clearly wasn't working as expected. To fix this, we examined the three building blocks of the current pipeline: the raw VTT transcripts, the enriched segments generated by the model, and most importantly, the crowdsourced validations provided by human volunteers. When we analyzed these validations, the signal was undeniable. Volunteers had flagged 66% of the segments for review. Usually, a high rejection rate looks like a failure, but for us, this was a roadmap. It was human intuition telling us exactly where the model was breaking. We diagnosed two specific structural errors. First, temporal drift, which you just heard. The AI was capturing technical mic checks and setup chatter. Second, fragmentation. It was chopping biographical introductions into tiny 3-second clips that made no narrative sense. So we replaced the general instructions with strict rule-based prompts. We introduced an anti-chatter protocol to explicitly ignore technical phrases and a merge rule to force the AI to combine any segment shorter than 1 minute with the next one. The improvement is noticeable. Take the Schalfis interview. Initially, the model gave us a meaningless 13-second fragment without any actual story. After our refinement, this expanded into a 93-second section, successfully capturing Mr. Schalfis' full narrative. Across multiple interviews, the rules either successfully correct problematic segments or remain neutral when no change was needed. Importantly, the system does not overcorrect. However, we must be transparent. This work was constrained by a 4-week sprint and focuses primarily on structural improvements. Semantic refinement remains an important direction for the future work. Overall, this project proves that crowdsourced rejections are more than just a quality check. They are a powerful debugging tool. Thank you for watching.
Back in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, letters were basically the WhatsApp of their time, essential for sharing news, keeping in touch, and reacting to events. But not all letters reach their destination. These undelivered letters provide insight into communication that was initiated but not concluded. Our project focuses on the Doesburg letter collection, which consists of 797 undelivered letters written between 1777 and 1821, and is held by the Dutch Institute for Sound and Vision. Using a digitized register of the collection, we analyze patterns in undelivered correspondence. The central research question guiding this project is: how can computational analysis of volume, geographical origin, and content of undelivered letters in the Doesburg letter collection reveal patterns of correspondence between 1790 and 1800? To answer this question, we created an interactive data story which combines temporal, spatial, and content-based analysis to examine fluctuations in undelivered letters and relate them to broader historical contexts.
After doing an initial temporal analysis, we decided to concentrate the rest of our project on the decade 1719 to 1800, where correspondence showed clear peaks and drops. Our content analysis, based on letter types and letter summaries, showed us that most undelivered letters were private, containing family news, love, and everyday life. Administrative letters focused on procedures and notifications, and military letters on orders and locations. We also identified the most common sender locations for each year. All identified locations were then geocoded to produce an animated map, showing the changing spatial distribution over time. However, as the geocoding was not extensively validated, and some dates had to be standardized, the animated map is intended as a general overview rather than a detailed geographical analysis.
Working with the data was challenging. Archaic Dutch, inconsistent spelling, missing information, and incomplete records required a lot of work and manual fixes.
Despite these challenges, our analysis revealed patterns in letter writing frequency, sender locations, and themes that shed light on communication in the 1790s. Finally, our data story offers an overview of the composition of the dataset and aims to encourage further research by highlighting its potential.
Hello everyone, our project is about who dominated the HPV discourse on Italian Twitter in the last 15 years. Social media has become a key space for discussing health and vaccines, especially during moments of crisis. During the COVID-19 pandemic, vaccine debates intensified and became more polarized. While COVID-19 vaccines have been widely studied, much less is known about how the pandemic affected discussions around other vaccines. One important case is the HPV vaccine, which protects against human papillomavirus, a major cause of several preventable cancers, including cervical cancer. The HPV vaccine was introduced in Italy in the late 2000s, which also explains the starting point of our dataset. The dataset consists of Italian language Twitter posts related to HPV, collected between 2010 and 2024. After pre-processing and language detection, the final dataset includes just over 5,000 tweets with nearly 200 variables. All personal data were pseudonymized to ensure ethical handling. For us, the main challenges were handling, organizing, and analyzing the complex dataset and interpreting the discourse. Based on this dataset, our main research question is: did the COVID-19 pandemic discourse affect the HPV discourse on Italian Twitter? If yes, how was attention shaped? First, we conducted a hashtag-based analysis to identify dominant themes before and after COVID-19, splitting the dataset at March 1st, 2020. Second, we performed a reply-based network analysis to examine how users interact with each other. We built networks where users are connected through replies and identified communities using the Louvain algorithm. And for the results, you are all more than welcome to visit our poster.
Our research is spatial analysis of Gevaert's raw material suppliers. In the early 1900s, Gevaert, a Belgian photographic company, relied on a large European network of suppliers for raw materials such as camphor, cotton, turpentine, and gelatin. Rather than focusing only on factories and inventions, how are the supplier networks behind Gevaert's production spatially structured? The dataset comes from the historical archives of the Belgian company Gevaert and contains information about raw material suppliers in the early 1900s. It includes supplier names and addresses and covers more than 2,000 supplier records from multiple European countries. The addresses were first extracted from digitized photographs and were converted into Excel. After that, each address was then separated into street, city, and country fields. After cleaning and separating each address into street, city, and country. Next, we geocoded the addresses in QGIS and converted them into a projected coordinate system. After that, we applied DBSCAN clustering to detect spatial groupings. We then added a historical railway map. Finally, we analyzed the clusters and distance patterns. The main challenges we encountered were: some addresses were written in different languages and had inconsistent formatting. Many place and street names had changed over time, and some entries were missing or incomplete. Because of these issues, automated parsing methods also produced errors, which meant we needed to do manual cleaning and validation. Our research results showed that 33 of the total 36 clusters are spread across Europe. The largest clusters are found in Belgium, France, and Germany, aligning with the historical railway networks. In addition, their average distance from Gevaert is measured as 482.47 kilometers. This suggests a combination of local and regional sourcing strategies shaped by industrial hubs and transport.
In this study, we analyzed how queer identities are represented in language generated by large language models using data from the QueerGen project. The dataset consists of template-based sentence completion comparing unmarked subjects with queer and non-queer marked identities. All outputs were processed through a uniform R pipeline where text was reconstructed, cleaned, and grouped by identity markers. We applied topic modeling using LDA to examine representational patterns rather than thematic content. Representation was evaluated using 3 indicators: representational range, entropy, and topic dominance, which together capture how broad, varied, and concentrated identity representations are. The results show that queer identities are consistently represented differently from unmarked subjects. Across models, queer marked identities often show lower entropy and higher topic dominance, indicating more constrained and potentially type representations. These effects are model dependent. Masked language models show more uniform but concentrated representation, while autoregressive models display greater variation across identities. Overall, these findings demonstrate that identity markers affect how queer identities are represented in LLM outputs. These representational bias matter ethically as they shape visibility and reinforce normative assumptions about queer identities in AI-generated discourse. To strengthen this analysis, future work could include running regression models to statistically test the relevance and significance of the observed representational differences. Rerunning this study over time would also be valuable as language models continuously evolve and may produce more nuanced or less stereotyped outputs in newer versions. Finally, applying NCR emotion lexicon-based analysis instead of Vader could offer deeper insight as it captures a broader range of emotions rather than reducing outputs to positive or negative sentiment alone.
Contextualizing metal in Rijksmonumenten using large language models. De Rijksdienst voor het Cultureel Erfgoed, or the Cultural Heritage Agency of the Netherlands, is the authority on all Dutch monuments, ranging from large tourist attractions and well-known monuments like the Rijksmuseum or the windmills at the Zaanse Schans, to smaller monuments like historical houses and bridges, among others. The agency keeps about 63,000 monuments on record, and more monuments get added to this every year. Researchers are able to access the descriptions of the monuments and search for keywords like iron, but what if they want to ask more detailed questions like how many monuments have iron decorations or how many bridges are made of steel? Well, the agency provides a dataset to be able to access all this information. However, descriptions of some monuments are extremely long, and scanning through tens of thousands of monuments can't be done quickly, especially by a few people. Simply searching for the word metal doesn't answer more context-heavy questions, and thus we turn to large language models, or LLMs. We've made two methods to gather our answers, comparing the description to a statement using NLI and asking through a text generation model. The models both answer three simple questions and turn it into yes and no terms. This is how we're able to turn descriptions into quantitative, usable data. To judge whether the LLMs have provided a good response, we compare the output to a manual dataset, and the similarity of these two provides us with a verdict. Using Microsoft 5.4 as a model, we've asked the questions: is the monument mainly made of metal? Does the monument have mechanical parts of metal? And are there decorative objects made of metal part of the monument? Compared to a manually made dataset, NLI scored a 39% match, while text generation categorized 2/3 of the monuments the same as manual categorization. While not perfect, we can see the usage of text generation to answer deeper questions that would otherwise take too much time manually. In the future, large language models could allow researchers to use extremely large datasets otherwise not manageable, they could extract or extrapolate data not previously categorized, and overall be more useful to the humanities by turning qualitative into quantitative data.
This is Group 7, reporting from Hortus Botanicus Amsterdam. This plant does not taste good. Our project focuses on the comparison of two primary resources. Two catalogs from Botanical Garden of Bogor in Indonesia, dating back to 1822 and 1844. Together with our supervisor, Professor Andreas Weber, our goal was to shed light on the Dutch colonial history by examining how the pursuit of scientific knowledge and botanical research served the VOC's strategic objectives for economic profit. We used OCR, data cleaning, taxonomic standardization, and comparative statistical analysis of digitized sources from Google Books and the Internet Archive to trace how this collection evolved. Our analysis reveals dramatic expansion. The collection grew from 318 genera to 727 genera, a 128% increase over 22 years. This growth was characterized by aggressive acquisition. 599 new genera were introduced, 190 were lost, and 128 remained common to both catalogs. Our research questions asked, which species grew most significantly, and can we correlate these expansion with colonial economic importance? The answer was clear. The species that grew the most were all economically important, utilized for rubber production, medicine, spices, dyes, and more. We focused on 3 genera. Indigofera, cultivated under the coercive cultivation system for dye production. Capsicum, tested for agricultural adaptability across tropical climates. And Smilax, expanded for pharmaceutical trade while appropriating indigenous medicinal knowledge. These findings demonstrate that botanical gardens were not neutral scientific spaces. They were instruments of colonial power where economic imperatives, political control, and scientific classification converged to serve Dutch imperial interests. Adding to our research findings, by making this dataset publicly available, we hope to enable other researchers to expand on our findings and make new discoveries in the study of botanical colonialism.